Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my live Q&A today. I'm Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer, and I'm just checking to see, am I live on Instagram? Let's check it out. I don't know if I can tell if I am live or not, but let me see. If you're watching live, say hi. I should be able to see your comments here. So let me know. Say hi in the comments. So you could be watching from YouTube, you could be watching from Instagram, or you could be watching from Facebook. So I don't know how to tell if I'm live on Instagram or not, but I'm going to assume that I am and go with it. So welcome. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the comments. I should see them here so I can answer your questions live. I did have some questions submitted ahead of time, so I will go to those first, but I will answer any questions live as well. So, okay, looks like I am live on Instagram now, and I should be live on my Facebook page. So yeah, please do put in a comment if you are watching live, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on Facebook. Hello, Darren. Nice to see you. Nice to see you here, Darren. And what about anyone on YouTube? Is there anyone on YouTube watching? If you are, say hello in the comments. You might also be watching this as a recording later on. So if you're watching as a recording later on, also let me know that. And let me know if you found this helpful. And you can know that I do go live once a month here. Usually it's the second Wednesday of the month. So you can tune in, you can turn on notifications so that you'll know when I go live, follow those kinds of things, and then you'll get notified when I'm going live. So I'm just going to check into my Facebook page as well to see am I live there? Am I live there as well? Because I'm not sure if all the questions will show up. There we go. It does look like I'm live there. Okay, perfect. Now I can pop into any of those platforms and I should be able to see if you are here with me live. Okay, let me see. All right, yeah, I'm live on YouTube as well. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back to my StreamYard where I'm streaming from to all these platforms and say hi. And also I'm going to start answering some of the questions that I had. So if you don't know me, I am the wellness engineer. So I did work as an engineer for 30 years. That was my career. I was a design engineer. And then in 2016, I had a very stressful year and I suddenly started developing joint pain all over my body. Turned out later on diagnosed as rheumatoid arthritis. And I really wanted to see what I could do holistically because the side effects of the medications, frankly, scared me. And so for me, I wanted to see what could I do? And it took me down a whole road and I really became a problem solver, like applying my engineering problem solving skills and trying different things out. And I was charting and graphing and doing all those things. And eventually I did reverse the symptoms. And so now I can live a full life again. And I decided to leave my engineering career and become a functional medicine certified health coach and help people. And really the groove I've gotten into after interviewing hundreds of people from between my podcast and summits that I've done and reading, I would say at this point, hundreds of books and scientific papers, I've come to realize that the biggest contributing factor for most people with not just rheumatoid arthritis, but most chronic pain conditions and probably even most chronic health conditions is the nervous system, the state of the nervous system. So if we are in a stress, if that nervous system is in a stress state and it's been in a stress state for a long time, it can get dysregulated. And when it's dysregulated, things start to break down in the body. And so we can get pain, we can get illness, we can get different problems, digestive issues, skin issues, brain fog, all kinds of different things happening. And so the way I work with people is to help them regulate their nervous system. Now, when I'm talking about the nervous system, I'm talking about the brain and also, the whole autonomic nervous system. And so, or the central nervous system, which includes the brain and the autonomic nervous system. And so you've probably heard of, fight, flight, fear, or rest and digest mode. Well, those are kind of the two branches of the two ways that our autonomic nervous system can work. And so we cannot heal if we are mostly in that stress response. So that's the fight, flight, fear, what people might call, I call the stress response. It's the body, the brain, the body just think our lives are in mortal danger, even if it's just like I'm stressed by emails, right? It can't tell the difference. And so it thinks that we are in mortal danger, and so it does all this protection. It thinks we have to fight a tiger, right? Our blood is going to go to those big muscles. We're going to tense up. We're going to breathe more rapidly. We're going to have other forms of protection turned on. So pain, mostly I help people with chronic pain. Pain is the one way the body turns on protection. So if you think about pain, if you twisted your ankle, I twisted my ankle last year. I was running, training for a 15-kilometer run, and I was running down a mountain, kind of lost my footing a little bit, twisted my ankle. I had immediate pain. Protection. My body turned on that pain as protection because it's like, stay off that ankle. It needs to heal. So that's an acute pain. What I help people with is chronic pain. When the body holds on to pain long after it should be released. And this can even happen even when we think there's a physical reason, like, oh, I've got a bulge disc or a disc abnormality or something like that, or I got an old injury. Sometimes the brain can, because we've had a lot of fear around pain, it can hang on to the pain. So we can get stuck in a cycle of feeling pain, having fear about the pain. So as an example, what I would do is I would have the pain. I had the pain, and then I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in my future? We're not going to be able to stay in this house. I can't manage the stairs. I can't travel. I can't do anything that I want to do. So of course, my nervous system shifted to the stress response. So then what happens? The body, the mind, and the brain, and the nervous system, they turn on more pain because as far as it's concerned, I needed more protection. So it turns on more pain. Then I have more fear about that, more pain. So we get stuck in a pain fear cycle. So we can also lower the pain by breaking that cycle. So some of what I do is teach people how to break that cycle. And there's a lot of great scientific research into this and why it works. A lot of people have known for a lot of years that it worked. If you are familiar with the work of John Sarno, he was talking about this over 20 years ago. He didn't have the scientific studies. He just knew what worked, letting go of this stress. And also what I've learned since is how we probably turned on protection long before the physical protection of pain came along. And we know that by our behaviors. So Gabor Mate calls this in his book, When the Body Says No. He talks about behavioral adaptations that we create in response to stress, especially when we're little. Because when we're little people, we can't fight. We're too little. We can't flee. Where are we going to go? We have to stay within our family unit. And so we have to come up with another strategy. And so the strategy, well, lots of times this gets lumped into the fawn. I don't know if you've heard of that, but the fawn category. So we have to fawn. So what does fawn mean? It means we create behavioral adaptations. So we might become people pleasers. We might become perfectionists because we think we have to be perfect and do everything right and make people happy in order to be safe. Okay, so the people pleasing, perfectionism, we might become hyper vigilant because we're always paying attention to cues in our environment that might be signaling that things aren't safe. So if you felt like this when you were little, it might become a pattern of behavior for you. We might become hyper independent because if our needs weren't met when we were little by adults in our life, then we probably made an assumption that we had to do things ourselves. And so that leads to becoming hyper independent. The inability to say no, can't set boundaries, because if we start setting boundaries, then we, on some level, probably a subconscious level, we don't want to displease people. And so instead of having that uncomfortableness of displeasing someone, we go to, I'll just do it anyway. So what I see in a lot of the people that I work with is a lot of these behavioral adaptations. They're not personality, they're behavioral adaptations. And usually when I'm doing my webinars, I'll ask people, how many of these behaviors do you have? And there's a few more as well. And lots of people will say all of them, many of them, most of them, that kind of thing. So I wonder about you. Do you see, if you've got pain or if you've got another chronic condition, do you see these kinds of things, these kinds of behaviors? You might also notice emotions. So if you so some of the emotions that we see consistent with chronic pain are like resentment, anger, disappointment, frustration, those kinds of emotions. So why do emotions affect our physical body? Well, emotions, if you think about it, some of these negative emotions can keep us in a stress state. So if you go back to the nervous system, that nervous system is staying in a stress state. It can't, if it's not in rest and digest, it can't repair. So it perpetuates whatever is happening in your physical body. So it doesn't get better, probably will continue to get worse. Also, just to kind of think about emotions in terms of like feelings in the body. If we've got emotions of frustration or anger or disappointment or sadness or resentment, if you think about it, if you think about a situation that's generating any of those negative emotions, you're probably feeling it in your body, right? Tune into your body. Now, if you're not used to tuning into your body, you may not be able to feel it, but I suggest that you start trying. So start trying to tune into your body and notice what you're feeling, because you will know that you feel these feelings in your body and they don't feel good. They don't feel good. Now imagine feelings in the body, they're visceral. They actually create vibrations in the body. So, no, as crazy as it sounds, but they're feelings like there's something, right? And so every single cell in our body, and especially the ones that are in this area where our organs are, they're getting bathed in that vibration. So they're getting another message that's like, things aren't well here. Things aren't, going well. We might have to put up some protection because there's stuff going on. It doesn't feel good. So our emotions play a big role in it. Okay, so that's my little kind of overview of what I love to teach and what I love to talk about. And so this is how I reverse my own rheumatoid arthritis. This is how I help people now lower pain. And so if you've got any questions about how to lower pain, questions about a holistic approach to pain relief, just type them in the comments. Okay, I'm thinking I will see them here. I'm just going to pop over to my Jane Hogan Health page on Facebook to see if there's any questions over there. And I don't see any there yet. And what about Instagram? Let me check over there. Hey, hi, Darren. Hello, Michelle. Hello, R46322370. Nice to have you all here. So if you got any questions, post them in the comments and I'll answer them. But as I said, I did have some questions submitted ahead of time. So someone did ask me about I talk a lot about breath work. Now, why do I talk about breath work? I talk about breath work because coming back to the state of the nervous system, either in parasympathetic, which is the relaxation response, or we're in the sympathetic, which is the stress response. So, just kind of thinking about these two broad categories. The stress response, things will get worse, or they won't get any better. In the relaxation response, the parasympathetic response, also called rest, digest, repair, this is where repair happens. This is where we heal. So we can only heal in that response. So, what's the quickest way to shift our nervous system? The quickest way is the breath. And I also love it because it's free, it's portable, and anyone can do it. You've always got it with you. I teach like all these free tools because they're the simplest ones. And it is simple. It's really simple to do this. So I talk about the breath as being kind of the starting point. So what do we do? How do we use the breath as a starting point? Well, typically people who have a lot of pain uh, and whose nervous systems are dysregulated, which is probably the cause of the pain or the illness, they tend to be breathing shallow. So they're breathing in the upper part of their chest because that's what we do when we're in the sympathetic state. That's the stress response state, right? We might need to run. So it's right. We're ready to do that. We might be breath holding. We might be breathing in and out through our mouth, which is not the best thing to do. And we're definitely not breathing into the belly. We're breathing quick. We're breathing shallow. We might be holding our breath and probably breathing through the mouth rather than the nose. So the breath is a beautiful way to start. Hello, Amy. Hello, Allison. The breath is a beautiful way to start to relax that and shift the nervous system over to the parasympathetic state, the relaxation response. And that's where you begin to heal. In fact, I got a great resource for you. I'm going to just copy this here. I'm going to put it in the comments. I'm going to put it in the comments in Instagram, and I'm going to put it in the comments in Facebook. There we go. And I'm going to put it in the comments in StreamYard, and hopefully it will go to all locations anyway. So this is a great resource I have to help you use the breath to help lower pain in the moment. So basically, what are we trying to do with this? We're trying to breathe into the belly. And when we do that, we will automatically slow down our breath because it takes, more time kind of to get the air down into the belly. So what do I even mean by belly breathing and why belly breathing? So when we breathe into the belly, the diaphragm, which is a sort of like a umbrella shaped muscle that's between the organs and our lungs. And so when we breathe into the lower part of the lungs, we call this breathing into the belly, but we're not really breathing into the belly. We're breathing into the lower part of the lungs. And that causes the diaphragm to move down, which causes the belly to push out. So that's what we mean by belly breathing. Now, having this movement in the diaphragm like this is really helpful for calming the nervous system because the vagus nerve, so you may have heard of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is attached to that diaphragm. In fact, it's attached to the lower part of the lungs. It's like attached to a lot of things. But when we breathe into the lower part of the lungs and the diaphragm moves, we're activating that vagus nerve. Now, the vagus nerve is the parasympathetic branch or the relaxation response of the nervous system. It activates that relaxation response. So when we breathe into the belly, we are activating that. We're shifting over to the relaxation response. And the more we can do it, the longer we are in the rest, digest, repair state, we're creating that environment in which the body can then do its healing work naturally. The body, all healing is self-healing. The body will heal. We are the ones that have to give it the environment in which to heal. So the most important part of the environment is shifting that nervous system. There are other things as well. Maybe there's external toxins and things like that. But the most important thing is the nervous system. And in fact, unless you shift the nervous system over to the relaxation response most of the time, the body will not heal. Doesn't matter how many supplements you take. It doesn't matter what anti-inflammatory diet you eat. It doesn't matter how many times you go to acupuncture or massage or any of those other things. If your state most of the time is not, if you're not in that relaxation response of the nervous system, just not going to heal. So you have to do that no matter what other modality you're using. And the only person that can do that is you. You, my friend. Right. So start with the breath. Now, a lot of people, and me included, when people used to say belly breathe, I just couldn't do it. I'm like, what? I can't get a breath down there because I was so used to chest breathing. So if you are new to belly breathing and you're just saying the same thing, like, I breathe, I can't get down there, start with an exhale. Start with an exhale. And so as you exhale, think about, and you could even put your hands there on your belly, think about pulling your belly button back towards your spine, like kind of exaggerate it. You might do this standing up in front of a mirror. You might do this lying down. You might find it easier that way. But regardless, starting with an exhale. So as you do the exhale, pull the belly button back towards the spine. And then when you inhale, the belly goes out again. So starting with the exhale, for me, that was a game changer. Let me know if that changes things for you, if that helps you. Start with the exhale first. Bring the air down the belly. So automatically, when you do that, you're going to lengthen out your breathing. You're going to be activating the parasympathetic response. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, if you can, breathe in and out through the nose. We're meant to breathe. I mean, you can exhale through the mouth, but especially the inhales, we want to be through the nose. So many factors are affected by that. But just to kind of name a few, when we inhale through the nose, we're pressurizing the air in the right way. We're warming up the air in the right way. We're creating more nitric oxide. So nitric oxide, it opens up. It's a dilator, so it opens up our airways. It opens up the cells so that more oxygen can be taken in. So really important to do that. If you, I've got other videos on how to clear your nose if it's blocked. So I'll tune into that. You can probably find it if you search my videos, nose unblocking. So if your nose is blocked, have a look for that. And maybe I'll do another video this week on that. I'll post it again so you can see it. But especially this time of year when a lot of people have colds, there's a great way to do that. And so have a look for that and you'll find it. Okay, so what I shared in the comments was a link to my, it's called Breathe Away Pain one-page mini class. So it's a little one page. I got something for you to listen to, something for you to watch, something for you to read, and I've got a half-hour lesson on how to use the breath as a kind of to focus your attention on an area. If you've got pain in a particular area, you can use the breath to help lower the pain. So it's a great little exercise. So you can download that there. All right. So that answers that question about how do we use the breath to lower pain? We really can. It's pretty amazing actually what we can do. Okay. So one question I had was about how did you recover from rheumatoid arthritis, from Karen? There's a lot to be said in that one. I do have a blog article. I could try to find that for you. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. So how I reversed rheumatoid arthritis. I actually started using diet, which I know now was not the right way to start. So it took me longer than it needed to because I didn't start with the nervous system. So that's my big learning that I share on. You can speed up the process if you start with the nervous system. but I will share my, if I can find it, my blog article on how I reversed rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. Okay. Here's the link. All right. So I'm going to pop that in the comments here as well and see if that goes out. Okay, it went to 2 places. I don't think it's going to Instagram, so I'll go pop it into Instagram as well. So you can go read that on my website, how I healed rheumatoid arthritis. So I did a bunch of things. I did do some diet, I did do some supplements, I did other things, but I would say the biggest thing that shifted things for me was understanding that I had been in a chronic state of stress since I was a child. And so that was keeping me like in this a smoldering, often I call it like a smoldering fire of chronic nervous system dysregulation. And so even though I did some diet stuff and that did help, I would plateau. Even though I did take all these supplements and I was prioritizing sleep and I was removing toxins and doing all those things, it did help. But it wasn't until I addressed the nervous system that I really healed. Now, I would say also that I became really stressed and like almost obsessed about healing and obsessed about food that I was eating. And when you get to that level of focus and you're stressed about it, it actually contributes to nervous system shifting to that sympathetic state. And so it's actually contributing to stress, not making things better. So I probably slowed down my healing by doing that. So what matters the most in whether it's rheumatoid arthritis, whether it's any kind of pain, I would say whether it's any kind of chronic condition, what matters is your internal state. What is your internal state most of the time? Do you feel loved? Do you love yourself? Do you feel calm? Do you feel at peace? What is your overriding feeling? And only you know this, and only you can change it. And I know you might be thinking, how do I change it? My life is stressful. How do I stop thinking about pain when I'm in pain? Because that's all I can think about. And I get it. I had the pain too. But, and I will say, it's up to you. Like, if you want to keep feeling that, and you feel justified in feeling whatever feelings you're having, and maybe it might be resentment over something that happened to you, or you feel hurt over something that happened to you in your past, you're entitled to hang on to all that. I'm not saying you have to drop it, but what I am saying is that if you want to provide the environment in which your body can heal, then you have to change something. You have to change your nervous system and shift it over to the relaxation response. So I had to look at, well, why did I have these feelings of stress and not belonging and self-loathing all my life? And it was just stuff that I hadn't dealt with. And I didn't have major trauma when I was little, just minor trauma, but it was enough that I had these feelings my whole life. And so I had to go back and really look at forgiveness. I had to forgive people, events, and people, and even myself in my life. And so that I could shift the nervous system. I had to start noticing, how am I most of the time? Do I feel stressed inside? What's going on there? Why do I feel stressed? I had to really dive into feeling good, changing my thoughts so that I would feel good most of the time. How you think, it affects how you feel, and how you feel, that translates out in your physical body. Okay? So what you're thinking, and what you're feeling inside your inner world is reflected in your outer world. So that's, kind of the big picture of how I did this. And I've seen it work over and over again when people shift their internal state consistently, right? It's not like okay, I'm just going to do something in the morning, or I'm going to meditate once a week. No, it's like your state most of the time. Okay, your state most of the time. And so it takes a lot of awareness to notice what's my state? How am I feeling right now? And how do I shift it? So I've given you that great tool about breath work and how to shift it. So that's one thing to do. So I hope that answers your question, Karen. It's kind of a big, broad question, but I would say follow me. I talk about all this stuff all the time, and I've got tons of free resources on my YouTube channel, on my website. So just tune in there and soak it all up and start bringing these things into your life. Okay. All right. Someone asked, Julie said, how can brain retraining for pain affect physical pain? I don't understand. Okay, so I think what Julie's asking about is what's the connection? Like if I've got a physical pain in my, my right knee, what's that got to do with my brain? Well, what we know is that the brain is very much involved in modulating pain. So like, dialing up, dialing it down. And our thoughts and feelings about the pain change the pain. In fact, the brain can totally turn off pain. If you think about the placebo effect, which I always find fascinating, right? The placebo effect works, different amounts, but, often 30% of the time. So what's going on there? The person's thoughts and feelings about the medication they're taking, the fact that they believe that it's going to work, it works, but it's a placebo. I find that fascinating. And what about hypnosis? We know that hypnosis can be used for pain relief. Why? We're sending a different message to the brain. There's all kinds of instances of pain being turned off, the brain turning pain off, like say someone who is in combat and they get injured and they need to get to safety, the pain gets turned off while their, life or death depends on them getting to safety. Then when they get to safety, the brain turns the pain on again. So lots of documented cases of that. So the brain can literally dial up, dial down, and totally turn off pain. So the brain has everything to do with how we feel pain, even when there's what looks like a physical reason for the pain. Some people, there was a great study done of people who had no back pain, and they did MRIs on, I can't remember how many of them, but they found that I think it was 63% of them had abnormalities in their back, like things like bulge discs and stuff like that, yet they had no back pain. So just because you have a physical thing doesn't mean you have back pain. However, if you have back pain for whatever reasons, and it could be an emotional reason, and you go to your doctor and you get an MRI and they say, oh, here's the reason for your back pain. We see there's a bulge disc there. And then your brain goes, okay, there's a physical reason. We'll just keep that turned on because we can't turn it off. So the brain can keep it turned on. And the brain gets really good at learning pain. So if you think about neural networks, that's how the brain learns, right? It builds neural networks. And so if we feel pain a whole lot and we're concentrating on the pain a whole lot and we got a lot of fear about the pain, the brain builds lots of neural networks. It learns the pain really, really well. And so it just keeps it turned on. And if we don't use any tools or strategies to stop those neural networks from forming, then they'll just keep on forming. What we need to do is give the brain other opportunities to feel pain and not feel fear. And so when we can do that, new neural networks get formed. Pain, not so bad. Pain, safety. Pain, life is still fine. And so it sounds funny because you're thinking like, well, life isn't fine if I got pain, but you have to give your brain a new experience. So in order to give your brain a new experience, you notice the pain and you give it different thoughts around that and emotions around that. So when you can do that, then new neural networks start to form, and the other ones, when they're not being used, will start to wither away. So then you get new neural networks. Pain, everything's fine. There's no fear. And so it starts to relax then the pain, dial down that pain because there's no fear around it. So this takes practice to do this, and it takes intention and it takes awareness. These are the tools that you need to help create that sense of safety in your brain when you're experiencing pain. Or it could even be an illness. Like, for example, when I was like in the depths of the rheumatoid arthritis and I was barely able to walk, I had no grip strength in my hands, pain all over my body, couldn't sleep. So when I was in that state, and then when I got the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, and then I started Googling that, and it didn't look good, right? Almost everything that I read back then. Now, this was back in 2016, so different than it is now, I think. But back then, rheumatoid arthritis, no known cure, progressively worse. Most people end up, in a wheelchair, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And so when I read that, I was certainly in fear. But luckily, I started to find some people that had reversed it holistically. And that's part of the reason why I'm so vocal now. I want people to know that there is another alternative, that they can do this holistically. It's totally possible. And so your brain will start to pay attention to what you pay attention to. So start seeking out those stories, whatever it is. It may not be rheumatoid arthritis for you. It could be pain, it could be, some other illness. Seek out stories of people that have healed holistically, people that have healed and reversed it. It's totally possible. You will find people, and then that will start to shift your beliefs. So shifting beliefs is another part of healing. All right. Just checking in to see if anyone's got any questions. Okay. Hello, Phil and Christine and Tracy and Webster Life and Hub. Hello there. Let me see on Facebook. Can't see who's watching there, but hello. Hi, whoever's watching on Facebook and on YouTube. I don't see any other questions in there. So I'm going to go back to the questions that were submitted. I've got a couple more. Okay, so this one was, I feel hopeless that this incessant pain will ever go away. Well, hopelessness, okay, coming back to the feelings that I was talking about, and the state of the nervous system. If we have feelings of hopelessness, then that's not a good feeling, right? Do you think that's going to shift us to the sympathetic state or the parasympathetic state? So hopelessness, is it going to initiate a relaxation response or a stress response, do you think? I'm sure you know. If we're feeling hopeless, that's going to shift us to the stress response, of course. And that, I get it. I was there. At one point. But you have to start with finding hope and seeing yourself and believing that you can heal. So start creating pictures in your mind, like a vision in your mind. One of the first things I do, well, I start with the breath, but also close behind that is seeing yourself doing something that you'd love to do that would bring you a lot of joy that maybe you can't do now. So for me, it was climbing Grosmorn Mountain here in Newfoundland where I live. I could barely walk, yet I would imagine myself climbing Grosmorn Mountain, seeing myself arms raised in victory at the top. And I just kept thinking about that over and over and over again. And eventually I did it. Hi, Laura. Eventually I did do it. And that was part of my healing. And I kind of knew this because I've been following personal development for a lot of years. And I knew that personal development had borrowed this from sports psychology. Athletes use this all the time. So it works. Our brain starts to pay attention to that vision. And they say, the neuroscientists say that the brain can't tell the difference between a vision that we've created in our mind and a vision that we're seeing through our eyes. So use that to your advantage. All right, Laura says, how do you filter out all the wellness influences? They all seem correct and have good knowledge. I know, Laura. I'm one of the wellness influencers, right? So I would say that it's true. There's no shortage of information out there, right? There's so much information. There's so many people talking about all this kind of thing. And so how do you filter it out? And I've had to do this as well. I think find someone that you resonate with, whether it could be me, but it could be someone else. Find someone that you resonate with, and then you let them be your guide for a while. And, or maybe you find one or two, but not too many, because yes, yeah, thanks, Laura, like me. It can be overwhelming when you're trying to follow so many people. I know. I'm in this world as well, and I want to follow a lot of people. And sometimes I'll kind of get, follow one for a while, and then another one catches my attention. But stick with someone that you resonate with, that feels like a yes for you. And maybe you kind of seek it out a little bit. I have this on almost all of my, not all my web pages, but all of my pages where I talk about my programs. And when I'm doing webinars, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I really believe that. So when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I believe that the right teacher will show up for you at the right time if you keep yourself open to it. Okay. And maybe you follow one for a little while, and maybe you follow another one for a little while. So just find someone that you resonate with, and you like what they say, and it feels right and true. Like, tune into your heart and notice what feels right and true for you. Is that helpful, Laura? I got a smiley face. Yay, good. All right. Any other questions? Let me see. Hello, Amethyst on Instagram. The Bennetts. Oh, is that Lee? Hi, Lee. Nice to see you. And Facebook. All right. So one more question that someone asked. How important is food when it comes to healing from rheumatoid arthritis? Okay. So I would say food, when it comes to healing anything, it can play an important role in your healing. I will say this, for rheumatoid arthritis and other autoimmune conditions, there's usually a gut health component to that, and most inflammation. So I would say if you have inflammation, then gut health is going to play into this. And what do I mean by gut health? So what I'm talking about is a component that, from what I understand, almost all autoimmune conditions and most inflammatory conditions have a leaky gut component. And that means that the lining of the small intestine, which is where most absorption of nutrients happens, that lining is only one cell thick, and it's gotten damaged. And so particles can leak in. The immune system, most of our immune system, they say 80-85% of the immune system is sitting right there on the other side of that lining. And so if things are leaking in that should never get inside our body, because if you think about it, the whole digestive system is really a tube that's outside of our body, even though it's inside the body. So the immune system, things will leak through, and the immune system gets triggered. Right. So then it starts it might even get confused. So that's what happens in an autoimmune condition. It starts to get confused. It thinks that some of the food particles that might be leaking in, or it could be particles from, the dead bodies of some of the bacteria. We all have bacteria in there. So some of those things, viruses, things like that, could be leaking through. And some of those may have protein structures that are very similar to our own body tissues. And so then the immune system gets confused and it starts attacking our own body tissues. So in my case, rheumatoid arthritis, that's the synovial fluid in the joints. For someone with, like, say, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, it could be the thyroid tissue, and so on. And unless that gets repaired, unless the leaky gut gets repaired, then the immune system will keep getting triggered. That's why a lot of people, once they get one autoimmune condition, would often get, 2 or 3 autoimmune conditions. So you need to get that gut repaired. So the good news is that the gut lining, those cells, they turn over every 3 to 5 days. So they turn over very quickly. So you can get like a quick result. I had that myself when I stopped eating some of the foods that were triggering inflammation. So, I mean, for me, for most people, from what I learned in my coaching, my functional medicine coaching training, gluten and dairy and sugar, processed foods, those are all common triggers. And I know that cuts a pretty wide swath. It does cut a pretty wide swath. And if, depending on how you're eating now, I still don't eat gluten. Although, you know what? When I go to Europe, I can eat their products over there. So sometimes I think it's the chemical. I think it's actually the chemical that's sprayed on wheat, which then ends up going into the products that are made from wheat, which then ends up going into my gut. That's what I think for me. But whether it's the gluten or whether it's the glyphosate that's sprayed on the crops, regardless, for me, I do better without having those things. And it might not mean forever. It might just mean until, your body heals. So you may have to do some things like that. And it may assist your body, right? If you think about it, our cells are turning over all the time in our entire body. I forget how many, like, billion cells every single day. And so how do those cells rebuild? They rebuild from the nutrients that, we give it. So if we're giving ourselves, our body, crappy building blocks in terms of the food that we're eating, then we're probably going to get like crappy in terms of the new cells that are being built. So if you want to help your body heal, then it does make sense that you want to give your body good food, right? And not too many, not toxins. We've got so many toxins. It's really, at this stage, we have, there's so many toxins and chemicals now. Nobody has no chemicals. That's what they're saying. Even in the umbilical cord of babies, now they're finding toxins. So we know that we're exposed to toxins. And so perhaps, if you're talking about what fills our bucket of stress up, it could be emotional stress. It could be stress from toxins. It could be stress from, chemicals that we're eating. So if we want to help not make that bucket so full, then we want to lower the stress. We want to lower the toxins. We want to do everything we can to help our body. So coming back to that environment to help our body heal, we want to do that. If you want to heal, But I would say, in the face of all that, if that stresses you, then I would scale back. The most important thing is to try to that emotional stress, to try to lower that emotional stress, because that is what shifts that nervous system from dysregulated to regulated state. So that's the most important thing. All right. I don't see any more questions. I don't see any questions showing up here on from YouTube, or I'm just going to check Instagram. I don't see any here on Instagram. So nice to have everyone joining. Thanks for being here. Facebook, I don't see any more questions right now. So I'm going to sign off and say thanks so much, everyone, for joining me. As I mentioned right in the beginning, you may not have been here, but I do these live sessions once a month, usually the second Wednesday of every month at this time, which is 11 Eastern. So if you want to get notified when I go live, make sure you follow me, whatever channel you're watching from, whether it's YouTube or my Facebook page at Jane Hogan Health, or my Instagram at Jane Hogan Health. Just make sure you follow me, then you'll get notified when I go live. If you're on my email list, I also let you know there. And for my students, they also get notified. And if you are a student of mine, any of my DIY courses, I do give you the opportunity to submit questions ahead of time. So that's where those questions come from. All right, my friends, I hope you have a beautiful day. I gave you a couple of great resources there. So tune into those, follow them. And the most important thing I would say, the number one thing you can do is help yourself calm down by breathing slowly and into the belly. Just do it for 3 minutes. Set a timer for 3 minutes and see if you can just focus on breathing for 3 minutes. What does it sound like? What does it feel like? How do you notice your belly moving or the feel of the breath in and out through your nose? Just see if you can put all your attention on the breath for 3 minutes. You'll be giving your nervous system a break from worrying about the future or ruminating over the past. You'll just be right here in this moment where everything is fine, where you are safe. Okay, I'll say bye for now, and I'll see you again next time I go live. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care, everyone. Bye.